600 letters. I hand wrote addresses on 600 letters. Did that, put a physical stamp on it, stamped our return address on it. I wanted people to look and say, oh, this is a handwritten letter. I need to open this. We probably had 30 or so inquiries on the website, which I was like, okay, this is interesting. A lot of dogs in there. I did a shotgun approach. Probably when it came down to it, 3 or 4 deals that were like, okay, that we can do something with. And then we had one out of that. So you do the math on that. It's like 630 inbound leads, probably talked to, solid 15, 20 people, ended up with 3 potential opportunities and closed 1. And that year was to get success. And it was some work to get that success. It wasn't easy, but that was our focus.
Hey everyone, Cody Bugan here at VestRight. We're here with Steve, who's actually one of our success stories. Very proud for him to be able to share his story today. We're going to get into the numbers of his very first closing with our LDP model, land with development potential. But one thing I told Steve before we jumped on this interview is I said, Steve, I just don't want to talk about the good stuff. I want to also talk about the bad stuff. I want the real story. Anybody watching this, if you're considering joining my education company, VestRight, to learn our LDP model, I want you to know what it takes. Are you willing to put in the reps? Are you willing to put in the work? Because quite frankly, if you're not, I don't want your check. If I'm all about PIF, which is behind me, purpose, impact, fulfillment, I get the fulfillment off of others seeing success. So with that, Steve, welcome, man. Excited for you to be able to share your story. You ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, thanks for having me. My career has really been in the tech industry. I've had a couple tech startups, built and sold some of those. Last one was in 2016. And I've been in that tech industry for a long time. As of recently, have worked for other large tech companies. And I decided, there was a point in my life where I wanted to make and give back to some other people in the community. And I started looking for some other types of income that wasn't a 10-hour-a-day workday. And so I started looking at doing some flex building investment, doing some wholesaling, becoming a realtor, doing commercial. So I started digging into all of those kinds of things. I mean, honestly, Cody, I came across your video and I came across, and I'm kind of, when I get into something, I will research the heck out of it. And so I found some video of you and I listened to you tell your story to a group. I think it was some home builders or something like wholesalers. And I connected with you and I said, okay, this guy's on a mission to give back. So I said, okay, I'll dig into this a little bit more. And so, I was still at that time said, I'm going to go get my license. I'm still going to become a realtor. So I was going down that path and I was halfway through the study and the training to get the license. I'm like, all right, I'm committed to this. I'm going to go ahead and do it. But I signed up for VestRight and I started that process. For me, it had no real estate. I grew up, my family owned rental properties. So I knew about how to maintain those. We probably had 4 or 5 of those that we maintained. So I knew about that. I knew how to deal with renters and those types of things. But that wasn't anything I wanted to do, man. I wanted to get into building something and finding a way to give myself more free time to really serve some other people in the community. And so that's what drove me to VestRight.
So I got to ask you, what was it then in whatever first video you saw that intrigued you? Like what was it?
Yeah, man, there was one that you did. And it was kind of a rough cut. I don't even know how I found it. It was a rough cut. Somebody recorded it. You were presenting to a group of either home builders or wholesalers. And man, you told your face story. You told that you had gone through a tough period in life, been very successful, but you had some emptiness inside, man. And so I can absolutely, because I have a very similar story to that. I understood that. And I said, okay, look, if somebody's going to get out there and they're going to genuinely talk about this to others, like there's some realness there. And so that's what connected me, man. And look, I'm a man of faith and, I've honestly prayed about this And those are little things that I feel like God kind of speaks to me in little ways by dropping like, hey, look, this is the right place for you to be.
For those that are out there that have maybe seen my stuff or explored Vestrite or whatever, and something's holding them back, right? They're skeptical for some reason. I mean, it's human nature to whenever you force yourself to get uncomfortable or to make that leap of faith, which you did. There's first skepticism. There had to have been some skepticism about Cody or Vestrite. And if so, what was it?
Was the material really going to give me what I needed to be successful? Or was it going to be some kind of just, hey, here's some training things, here's access to some portal. There you go. Now you have access to that. I actually asked them, I think I asked Chad, I was like, is this engagement? And he explained to me, kind of more about the Zoom sessions and, the access to the coach and those types of things. And so I'm just always skeptical of any kind of training. Is it going to really provide me the value that I'm expecting? And look, we all go into training with a much higher level of expectation. Think we're going to walk out and all of a sudden we're going to go do 3 things and we're successful. Right. So I was a little, suspicious on, what the quality of the training would be. I don't think you over deliver on value. I'll just say this. The thing that surprised me was it wasn't a bunch of trainers. It wasn't a bunch of people that learned content and provided that content back. When I went through it, it was from you, it was Dave, it was people that actually lived it. For me, I'm always looking for that. I'm not looking for just the content. I want to talk to somebody that has experience doing it and they can tell me all where they failed, because that's really what I want to know. Where do I need to dodge around a pothole or something like that because they've experienced it? But the live interaction and the ability to go and ask the questions through the training on a weekly basis I was bringing my deal every week to those sessions and going, hey, I got a question. I know I've asked 3 questions, but hey, one more question for you, right?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And that's different than a training platform that you're just watching a bunch of videos. Like I've had success in this. So I say you delivered. I see a lot of people go, and I know there's people that take Vestrite. And if anybody's watching this, my encouragement is like, just commit to doing all of the training. Don't try to fast track it in a week. Go through the training, like really, really learn it. Go back and watch it again if you can. And so for me, that's what I did. If I didn't understand something, like when we started getting into the calculations and, I built my own underwriting spreadsheet based off of everything. I took the time. I probably watched that 10 times to really understand that. That's being able to do that. I think I'd probably say you over delivered from what I had originally expected. So I'm not saying that because we're on the phone either, man. I was successful, and I
appreciate that. There must be something that happened at Immersion for you, and if so, there's a reason you keep bringing it up. So what was it that happened at Immersion?
Well, man, look, go back to this calling, this kind of bigger calling for me. Look, whoever's listening to this, don't know where you're at, but this is kind of, when you're dialed in, and I feel like when you're really kind of spending time with God, he speaks to you in ways. And that's kind of where I am with this. And so, I'm going to this. And again, this event cost $5,000 or something. And I found
the event was $5,000. That's right.
$5,000.
Yeah.
And, it was last minute. A bunch of other people had signed up, and I said, I'm going to go to this. You're in. Again, I'm committed. I'm like, this is the direction that I'm going. So go to the event. And look, I've been in the tech industry, and a lot, to talk about your faith really isn't something a lot of people really support. They just really don't. And so, I go to this. So that's the world I'm coming from. And so I go to the event, man. And honestly, you prayed for that entire group in there, man. And so I knew right then, I was like, this is it. I'm here. And I'm in a room with a bunch of either new people or builders or people like that. Totally out of my element, man. This is not where I would normally be sitting. And so, but you prayed for this whole group. I got chills. I think I text my wife, I'm in the right places. Look, this is my story and kind of and I know you don't even know this. You're just learning about this stuff today. But, it's kind of funny how God works and brings you and will say, hey, look, I'm just letting you know I'm here. You're in the right place. This would be good for people that are listening because, you talk about putting the work in, and I will tell you this. If you could have seen what I was doing, we sent out 600 letters. I hand wrote addresses on 600 letters. So you do the math on that. That was a lot of get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning and write. And I don't have great handwriting. Did that, put a physical stamp on it, stamped our return address on it so that I wanted people to look and say, oh, this is a handwritten letter. I need to open this. And so we had our letter in there. 600 letters went out. We probably had 30 or so inquiries on the website, which I was like, okay, this is interesting. A lot of dogs in there. I did a shotgun approach, learned from that. There was a lot of stuff in there. No way we were going to purchase those properties. So I was like, okay, learning from this. We had probably, when it came down to it, 3 or 4 deals that were like, okay, that we can do something with. And then we had one out of that. So you do the math on that. It's like 630 inbound leads, probably talked to, solid 15, 20 people, ended up with 3 potential opportunities and then closed 1. We could have probably continued on, but I didn't want to go too big or like try to get my hands into too many things. I wanted success on one property. And so that was what our goal was in that year was to get success. And it was some work to get that success. It wasn't easy, but that was our focus for them. So that's how we got it. So I think those numbers are important because a lot of people ask, well, how many letters do I need to send out? And look, we were calling down those lists. I was getting the F off. I was getting the not answer. I was doing all of those things. But it's that personal touch that I think really got us. And I personally connected and went and met with 4 of those people. I went in a lady's home. I went to a Mexican restaurant and literally opened up and presented and explained to them what the development process looked like. Had a little PowerPoint. Happy to share that if anybody wants it. But to do, and it's the material that's in the Vestrite program. So it's not anything that I've made up. And what it did was it gave me credibility. I've been in sales a long time. And I feel that when you come in with confidence and credibility and you genuinely care about somebody's interest, we weren't there. I'm like, hey, we have your interest. We want to stay, historical preservation of the land. Like we want to know what's important to you. We'll talk about the deal, but this lady had her ashes to her husband on part of this land that we had to deal with, which was a whole nother variable. So, coming from those letters to sitting down with them and taking the time to meet with those people face to face was really important. Not just through a letter and, hey, we'll buy your property for this much money. That's what's going to make the difference in these deals.
Dude, I love that.
Yeah.
Tell me about your day-to-day role with this project, right? So like, did you use a full service engineer where they do most of the work? Give me an idea kind of what your role was and how many hours on average a week do you think you actually spent on this specific project
Just
yourself?
on the deal itself, not working on the business itself.
Just the deal.
Just the deal. Not a lot of hours per week once we started going. My journey, especially on the first deal, I think is really important for students to understand that, you think you send a letter out, you make a phone call, and you call a couple engineers and pass them the property, and then they're going to tell you everything that you need to know. It's really more than that. You gotta be a student of the craft. You got to understand what they're doing. I have an engineering mindset, so it was easy for me to pick up on that. But I did struggle with the engineers in the beginning because I was fine. I was find them, or somebody would point me in a direction. I would talk to one, then they wouldn't get back to me. One guy wanted $10,000. I was like, oh man, this is just not going to work. Tell you, man, God's involvement. I ended up connecting with a civil engineer that had moved their practice to Dallas, Fort Worth, and he was trying to build the business up. And so he and I have connected, man. It's been an amazing opportunity to mentor him a little bit on many other things, but we've really connected. So in the long run, that was I got really lucky on that, to have that engineer as part of this deal. And man, that's another thing. And we ended up blessing him with $30,000 for his family. I mean, and it was just amazing to be able to do that. So, that was really a big, I won't say problem, but it was a big benefit to have that. And I will say, finding the right engineers is really key. So we got the deal. We inked it with them. Man, I'm going to tell you all the bad things that I did or the things I did not do correctly. I cut the timeline on this way too short. I thought, okay, I had a potential buyer like, oh yeah, we're interested in that. Talked to a couple engineers. Oh yeah, we can get it done in 6 or 7 months. No way. So I put all of that on there. Luckily, I had option clauses in there to extend it. Cost me $1,000 every time, which wasn't crazy, but still, I'm giving money away. So I was probably spending, I'd probably say I would spend a couple hours a week, maybe 3 hours a week, something like that. It wasn't a lot of time.
We usually hear 2 to 5 hours a week. Yeah. So you're right there. Yeah.
Yeah. When I met with, it's kind of funny, met with this lady's son and their realtor at a Mexican restaurant. And I knew I was close to closing them. Like, hey, we're really interested in this. Let's come meet. And so I met with them, and their big thing was they wanted 2 of those acres on that property. And at the time I was like, yep, we'll make it work. I was just like, had no idea how we were going to do that. But I was like, yep, let's do it. I just wanted to get somebody under contract. And so I agreed to that. That right there, I probably will never do that again. That was a really big challenge for us. There's a lot of reasons why. There was no road access to it. It was like 2 acres in the middle of the there was a lot of challenges with it. But what got us through that was the relationship that I had with that landowner. They trusted me. They knew I had their back on it. And they had some personal connection on that. They had buried, or not buried, but they'd sprinkled her husband's ashes out there. This is a piece of property that they had no personal connection to. And she said, look, we'll sell this 25 acres. We'll sell this, but we want these two acres whenever they're developed. The extra touch that we did on there, and this was actually brought up by my engineer, was we registered a monument when we got it, ran it through preliminary and got it zoned out and everything, so that his location is by this specific tree. Man, that meant the world to her. She thought that was the greatest thing. Look, they're buying those properties there and they're going to build houses on it. But that was a thing that she thought was just absolutely amazing. Nobody in that area wanted us there at all. And in fact, we had to get to that property through another neighbor's property.
By the way, everybody, we call those NIMBYs. And I love Jesus, man, and I'm supposed to love everybody. But I will tell you, at times, it's a challenge to love NIMBYs. And NIMBYs means not in my backyard, right? And so tell us about the NIMBYs.
We had people on the south end. We had people on the north end. And the guy on the south end, we had to get through his property to get on there. And he decided he didn't want to allow anybody to go out there anymore. So, and he had good solid fences. It wasn't barbed wire. I mean, it was a good metal fence all the way around it. So we had to deal with him. When we went to town council to present and it get voted on, we had 12 neighbors, and all took their 2 minutes to share with us. One lady talked about drainage. Another lady talked about dragonflies, that their dragonflies are no longer going to be there. We don't want a bunch of homes. We want quality. Like, the list went on and on. Look, I've never presented in these things. I had to get up and talk about, hey, we're here. And, this is what we're going to do. Luckily, my engineer was there with me, so he helped me. But we were, again, trying to make it smooth because I didn't want anybody to just cause us more challenges I just wanted to get past this. In the end, this was in the ETJ. So this particular city really had no jurisdiction in the county. As long as we met all the guidelines, it was going to go through approval. So it was more of a formality to do that. But we listened, and we stood there at the end of the council meeting and said, hey, if you want to talk to us, we'll be here. Not a person came up, except for that neighbor on the south side who had the gate. And we shook his hand. And then later on, he eased up a little bit. I went through 4 builders on this. 4 builders, an investor. I had a guy in California that when he lived in Malibu and his house burned down, And he was like, Steve, we're out of this. Like I moved my whole family. So I'm like, oh my gosh, what else could happen? That went on. I had a group of investors that we got all the way down. They were going to sign the next day. And they said, hey, we want to come out and take a look at the property. I want to bring a couple other guys. And they came out. And I said, hey, me and my civil was there. We said, hey, we're going to leave. You guys, and he says, is it okay if I invite somebody else to come just take a look? They're on their way. And I said, yeah, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. We left them, and two of the neighbors came over on their Kubotas and wanted to share their feelings on the whole thing. That guy ended up backing out at 6 o'clock that day. Says, no way we're signing that, not with that. So I'm like, are you kidding me? Now I've got to go back, and it's hard to find buyers. It is hard to find buyers. And so over the year, I just was constantly networking. Met a guy in a group that I'm in, and he's a commercial banker for Texas Bank, and he just started connecting me to people, and I just started calling them. And I went and met a guy that was who ended up purchasing. Went and met him, and they normally build, kind of more industrial homes and turn them into multifamilies. He's built some townhomes, but he was looking at getting into single family. And we got there, we talked about God, we talked about the future. And he was like, you know what? I feel good about this. Let's do this. And it wasn't a straightforward process with him either. Getting money and things like that was a challenge, but we got through it. We ended up closing with him. We worked out some special payment options with him and some things like that. But I mean, it was a grind from the neighbors to finding the buyers for this, and just never giving up, man.
So from the time you got control of the land to the time that it closed, you got your capital back plus your profits.
Right.
It was about 13 months. Okay, cool. So let's dive into the numbers for a second. So how much capital did you have in the deal?
$53K.
So you had 53,000 into the deal. Okay. And like what portion of that, well, and I'm assuming that 53 grand was paid out over the course of that 13 months. Is that right?
Yeah, it was, spread out all the way throughout.
Okay. So 53 grand paid out over 13 months. Okay. And then, how many lots was the project?
It ended up being 21 total.
21 lots. Okay. And for those of you listening, I want to you hear this. When I first started doing this 23 years ago, I had projects that were 3, 4, 5, 6 lots, 10 lots, whatever. My average project today, on my last 10 closings, okay, projects have closed, my average project size is 162 lots, okay?
Awesome. Yeah.
My average project size on my active projects that we're working on is like 250 or 260 lots, okay? And so what I've come to realize is just the bigger deals don't take much more work than the smaller deals. But also the profit and the capital is all relative, right? And so like we talk about in our marketing all the time, 6 and 7 figure paydays, right? And you're about to share us your payday. The reason we're constantly at 7 figures, and we have some deals right now that look like they're going to hit 8 figures. It's because the economies of scale. It's the size of the projects, right? But so it's 21 lots, right? Okay. What was your payday on the deal? Profit. What was the profit you made?
About 116,000, a little bit over 116,000.
Which is what my team wrote down here. So you had 53 grand in it. That was paid out over the course of the 13 months.
Right.
Plus you made 116 grand plus got your 53 back. And so if we were to look at ROI or IRR, which I didn't run that calculation, it's really high. Because remember that 53 grand was paid out over the course of time. But, the simplest thing that I just look at that's a really valuable, financial evaluator is what it was your capital multiple. And so basically you multiply, you hit a 3.19x or multiple on capital in 13 months, which is awesome, right? So you made 116 grand, and we talk about 6 and 7 figure paydays all the time. So Steve, he hit the target. He hit the 6 figures, right?
Out there, man. Awesome. On the first deal.
on the first deal, very first deal. So when that payday came in, that 6-figure payday, there had to have been some type of emotion tied to it, right? Like,
yeah.
What, tell me what was going on with you mentally, emotionally when that happened?
Man, the feeling of just of succeeding. I did it kind of thing like that. It was when we inked that and we closed that deal. And look, like I said, I've been in sales a long time, and a deal is not done until the deal is done and it is inked up and things we've closed it. And so I was on edge, man. My civil was probably more excited than me because he's a young family and he was going to get that money and he knew it. Like that probably made me more excited than the payday's nice. Don't get me wrong. But it was the success of being able to run a project from beginning of finding it all the way through closing it. That was where I was the most proud of. But man, I can tell you all the sleepless nights of, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Trying to figure this out. Like it was worth it, man. In the end, it was
Good.
a great feeling. Yeah, for sure.
Is there anything you would tell yourself based on your experience for the last 2.5 years, you would tell yourself back then based on what you know today?
Based on what I know today is I wouldn't have stopped filling the pipeline up. I would have kept that going.
Everybody hear what he just said.
Yep.
Never stop filling the funnel.
Yep.
Right.
And I did that because I wanted to be successful. But knowing if you're giving me the, hey, you know what you know now, and you go back, I would have never stopped, and we would have probably had 4 or 5 probably deals working.
Okay, for those now, so those that are watching this, they're skeptical. From the mouth of Steve, what would you tell someone that's watching this but they're skeptical?
Look, I would say, look at yourself first, and if this is something that you want to do, if this is something that you feel like, you know what, I'm going to commit to, and you commit to it, you will be successful as long as you commit to it. If you get in there and try to crush through it in 3 weeks and go, okay, I've done the work, now I need the success to come. That's not what this is about. It's training you in a way to have a different mindset, and it truly teaches you the development process. I can say now, and in fact, I do this now. People ask me, what do? I used to say, manage a sales team in a technology company. I flip that. I say, I do land development. So you are what you say, and your mind will start to think that way as well. So if I can go through this and I can learn how to develop land, you can too. And so I would just say, commit to it, get in there. The other thing that I would just encourage is when you're in that group, reach out to the people that are in that class with you and connect with them. I've made so many connections in my area and across the United States, really, that I can reach out to them anytime. Hey, have you seen this before? You have a contract with this. Can you help me with this situation? You got to network in with the other Vestrite students. That's just as valuable. This isn't the get rich quick. I would say those guys that are looking for that, and there's so many things that come through telling you that on social, that's not what this is for. I would say that's the first thing that came to mind. It's the get rich quick. Now, hey, you may get lucky and you get wealthy very fast. And that's amazing, but that's not what the only plan is with this. I think this is for somebody that's looking at genuinely either finding a second income by doing this or looking at getting themselves truly into the development business. I mean, this is a real program. The thing that keeps coming to my mind is freedom. That I just sitting here and I'm thinking freedom. That this is a training program that trains you on, I would argue, one of the most valuable resources on the planet today, how to manage it, how to deal with it, how to package it up, and how to sell it to give you freedom from the 9-to-5 job that you have, financial freedom, and to give you the ability to maybe impact other people's lives, the people that you're purchasing it from, or other people around you.
And I think it's not just financial freedom, it's time freedom too.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Yeah. Love it, man. Steve, thank you so much for being here. For those of you that are watching, you want to learn more about the LDP model, land with development potential, go to vestrite.com and watch the free training. With that said, thanks everyone for watching. I know this was a long one, but hopefully it was impactful for you. Thanks again, Steve, for being here, man.
You bet. Thank you.